was true. He didn't think it was, something that absolutely happened. And he was like, on the fence about it. But I'm like, yeah, this is what happened. This happened to us. So they're trying to use it to change the narrative and change the history books so they can make everything, wishy-washy on their part. And if you watch my series, you watch my videos, you understand why. You understand what this whole thing is about and what's coming with that. So I don't want to get too deep into all that here. But you got to look at this whole thing. And for the people who didn't know this information and didn't understand the truth about Anthony Johnson, stop spreading that shit, because you have black Christians walking around trying to justify, just to justify their Bible and say, see, no, we sold ourselves into slavery. Black people wasn't the only people that were slaves, and it's not a slave, it's a servant or indentured servant, which is stupid. And you can look at the whole thing, and then when you start to look deeper, you'll see, what that was about. Now, when you look into this whole thing, another thing you're going to understand is, one, most of the people who was indentured servants was white folks. We were slaves. You can't go to a country and take people against their will and bring them over here and say, well, we're going to make you an indentured servant. You're going to work for this many years, and then whatever you do after that is on you. You make him, I don't want to do that. I want to go back home. So now you're a slave. What about the people who you threw overboard? What about the people that you killed? Oh, shit, you just hung Jesse from the damn tree. What about him? You just shot this guy. You just beat to death this guy. What about these people? So that's not indentured, servitude. That's slavery. You're a slave. Like, come on. So when you get into the slave narratives, one of the things the slaves talk about is the legal aspect of this. So understand, we're talking about the 1600s, the 17th century. This is not America. So even when you say it's the first person owned slave in America, it's not even really America yet. It's not the United States. It's not like what we would know it as, America. Of course, it is. It's the country. It's the land. But remember, at this time in the 1600s, those 13 colonies was operating under British law. Just that simple. So English common law held that a child was basically the status of his father. And that was important. Now, that's true if the father is Christian. This is one of the reasons why people were converting to Christianity, so they can be accepted under the English common law. Especially if he was considered an English subject, which basically everybody was. So a lot of the free people converted because they wanted that. Because if you took a woman or boy, a lot of those free black people in the North, they was getting slaves. And of course, yeah, they was buying them, but they was freeing them, they was marrying them. There's so many stories on this. White guys as well. So not marrying them, but knocking them up. So let's just keep it real. But in the slave narratives, a lot of slaves talk about, the becoming Christian for those reasons, and how they told them that it would have some type of benefits for them if they were Christians. And then they met indentured servants, or free people, a lot of times going up to the North with their masters, and they would see free black people, which, in 12 Years a Slave movie, you seen how that played out in that movie, how he was free and then they got him and boom, next thing you know, he's a slave. But in the story, I talked about this before about George Washington, one of his wife's servants. That's what happened with her. They came up to Pennsylvania. This was Martha Washington's favorite slave. They came up to Pennsylvania, and she met some free black people in Philadelphia. And they kicked some knowledge to her, and they end up helping her escape to come up, north. And then Martha Washington wanted her back so bad, she sent George Washington up there, and they told him straight up, nah, she free here. She don't want to come back. She don't want to go back there. And there's nothing he could do about it because of the legal situation. She actually tried to buy her back or pay for her, but she couldn't do it. So you got to understand it was a different time back then. And remember, up until, after the Civil War, the 13 colonies didn't have control over the entire country. So slavery was legal in the South, and that was the reason for the Civil War. Because even, 1776, the American Revolution, after it was fought, that was to free themselves from King George III. It wasn't to free the entire country, because the 13 colonies didn't have control over the entire country yet. And the South was still free, and the South was still the South. And the Civil War is what it took to basically, free the slaves and make that happen. So understand that. But you have to understand how stuff like this whole Anthony Johnson lie that can't be really proven true, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really fit. The Wikipedia entry for sure was definitely changed because it went from this guy being captured by Arab slave traders to what it says now, and that's, oh, he was just coming to America and he was an indentured servant. He was sold somehow to a Virginia company, and he was an indentured servant paying off his room and board or what have you for the trip over. And then when he was free being an indentured servant, he somehow amassed this wealth and everything like that and became a tobacco farmer and all that kind of stuff because the person he was working for supposedly got slaughtered by Indians. Like most of the people that lived there got killed by Indians. He supposedly took over the land. And then what happened between him and Robert Parker happened. And this dude was eventually granted, a lifetime of servitude from this guy. And then when he died, they say, well, it's because he was a black man, he's not really a citizen and he can't own this land, and they took that. But they didn't say that or recognize him as a person who wasn't a part of the country, and he won a legal case over a white man, before that, to get, possession of another man. It's still all suspect. None of it justifies slavery. I don't care who was doing the enslaving or who did what. None of it justifies slavery. And we know for a fact the people who have their hand and is largely way more responsible for it is Europeans. It doesn't matter what anybody said. We had slavery in America. The country was controlled by Europeans, controlled by white people. And again, when we got free, America got free from King George III in England, they didn't immediately set us free. So forget all the stuff that Africans sold Africans into slavery and that we were selling each other and this and that. You got to pay attention to what's getting ready to happen to history. I put a video out a long time ago that said, well, they changed the history books, all this new. It's not even new, but people are starting to come into the knowledge of what really took place in this country and around the world. And will they change the history books to reflect the truth? And as you can see, no. So critical race theory, which is not a theory, it's a common sense thing. We know for a fact. I put the video on my Instagram of the person talking about what happened with the suburban communities, how these contractors got government contracts to go and build the suburbs away from African Americans, to build the suburbs, and they gave them the money with a stipulation that, hey, don't let black people in these neighborhoods. You can't sell them a house. They can't rent a house. They can't buy a house at all. That was the stipulation. So you got to think about that. And we understand all the stuff that was in place. I mean, we couldn't vote. Come on now, that's enough right there. We couldn't vote. And everything that happened during the civil rights movement and everything that happened since slavery, of course, directly affects our status and position now, because this government did not do enough or anything to mend what, even though I don't know if you can mend it, but you probably could have had you gave us equal treatment. They haven't done anything to mend what happened after slavery and during the civil rights movement and all our leaders being killed. They didn't put out any truth. They didn't, correct the lie that we was, not human. We didn't have souls, that we had rabbit's blood, that we were somehow different and inferior to white folks. They didn't correct any of that. They didn't do nothing to the school system or to the curriculum then when they could have made a difference to let people know that everything was a lie and what happened to us because of them. So nothing was done to fix those problems. So now all of a sudden that, we have a lot of black teachers and white teachers who want to come out and tell the truth, who want to talk about real history and, bring up the fact that, yes, this played a role and it's the reason why we are where we are as people. And as I said, you got people like, Kuhn Ben Carson, who is talking about, we're just trying to be divisive and they're trying to divide the country. And at a time like this is not a time to be trying to divide the country. They're trying to make it like they're trying to very eloquently say, we have to protect the children from the truth because the truth is too deep for them. Meanwhile, they don't want to fix any problems that the truth created. And this is where we stand. So I'll get into this in more videos, but just wanted to clear that up real quick. Now, if you've been paying attention, especially if you're on the West Coast, fires everywhere, all over the world, there are fires going on right now. And for the first time ever in my life, I looked at my phone and I seen a forecast for smoke here in Las Vegas. Smoke. You look outside, it's smoky everywhere. And it's like, what's going on. And then you look around the world and you're seeing the same thing. You're seeing these fires all over the place, especially in Turkey. You're seeing them now in Italy. You've seen them in a lot of different places. Fires going crazy. Skies filled with smoke. And I'm going to get into this in a later video, but you got to understand what I talked about with chemtrails and what that entails. I want to get into it here, but make sure you guys check out the DEFCON Delta DVD. Watch that. Understand what's happening and what's coming with Corona and how this is going to really affect things and people's health. As you can see, it tells you straight up. It says everyone will experience health issues. Think about that. And we know how dangerous smoke can be and what that entails. But we know with the Corona situation going on, what that could possibly look like if you get sick. So you can use your imagination on how it's going to play out. But I'm going to get into this deeper in a later video. But pay attention to what's going on and know your history. It's one of the reasons why I do these videos, and I have so many videos out, and why I try to put the right information out, but understand they're coming for it. And I told you guys before, they're coming for the truth. It's going to be gone soon. Videos like this, we're not going to see them. They're going to use this. They're going to pass a law eventually that's going to say straight up, we can't tell the truth. A lot of you guys send me messages about, getting the YouTube plaque. And thank you guys, by the way. I don't want to forget. Thanks to everybody who's been supporting since day one. We made it to 100,000. It took forever. Should be way past 100,000, but people don't like the truth. A lot of people ask me, did I get the silver play button and everything? You got to understand, one, I don't expect YouTube to give me that silver play button. You got to understand, too, that they can, at their own discretion, deny anybody the silver play button. I don't have any strikes on my account, whatever like that. Any issues I had before was resolved. I proved my case, basically. So I don't have no problems, and I should 100%, qualify for the silver play button, which I did inquire about it. And they're supposedly looking into my YouTube account, and they're going to let me know. So I expect a no because of the videos I put out and the controversy. I'll be shocked if I get one. But you got to look at that and see, the truth is not going to be, spoken soon. The whole curriculum is going to change. Our generation will die off. We will be gone, and our children will be raised with the knowledge that they give them. This is how it's been done. This is how they've been covering up the truth for generations. As I said, generational indoctrination. What we know as real history will be gone. And then they will be brought up with whatever is told. And that will stick as the truth. And we don't know how much history, is around that is not real history. That's just bogus, covered up, whitewashed shit. Just got to understand. Again, the colonists back then, under King George III, and you have England and you have English common law that had so much influence from Christianity or influenced Christianity, because we're talking about slavery 1600s, and we're talking about the King James Version 1604 to 1611. So everything fits in that time frame. You understand? So we're talking about, the 1620s when this guy comes, 1621, I believe he was born 1600, Anthony Johnson, he comes here 21 years old, and then these laws are in effect that is reflecting the King James Version of Christianity. So it all fits when you begin to understand. You gotta look at how it played out. But know your history. Don't let these people walk around and make posts like this and say, oh, this justifies slavery somehow, and we enslaved ourselves, and we've been doing this for a long time, and we're not owed anything, and so on and so forth. But common sense to tell you, if you take a person against their will, like if you're walking down the street with, it's you and your squad, and somebody walk up and grab one of your homies, what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna do something about it. Y'all gonna step in and intervene. Even if you see two guys grab a little girl away from her mom and run down the street, if you're a man, you're gonna chase after that guy, right? You're gonna do the right thing. They didn't do the right thing. So how can you say anything on a moral level, like we're somehow morally wrong on a moral level, when all of this stops if you just don't buy the slave? You just don't buy the person. All of it stops if you don't buy the person. You can end it all if you don't buy the person. You do what's right, what's the right thing to do. But if you're living under a system or a set of beliefs like Christianity, where you can read in the Bible where it says, hey, slavery is legal. God says it's okay. then it makes sense why they're justifying slavery and why slavery was going on and what happened and how a lot of free people was, converted to Christianity, free black folks, so they can, be in the know and be involved in whatever laws Britain was affording them for being a Christian. You got to think about it like that. You got to remember. So when we say this country wasn't founded on Christian values and everything, was Freemasons founded this country. Yeah, but we're talking about the 1776 country. But it wasn't about masonry then. It was about, building, New Atlantis, which is a deeper thing to get into. But it was what it was. And it wasn't really going off of Freemason beliefs and everything like that. It was Christianity because that's what they was run by. And when you really dig into English common law, it's a lot of Christianity in it. So understand. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Remember, pick up DEFCON Delta. Make sure you guys get stock market 1 and 2. The whole key to that whole thing is understanding those stocks. Part 3 is going to come out. Like I said, first 500 people will get part 3 free. And right now we have to 300 people who's going to get it free. So make sure you guys grab it. And we got into a lot of information in that, but you'll understand why certain things get ready to happen with the market, as you'll see. And I'll touch on that more. But again, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next video.